Welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I am very excited for this special episode of Connect and Collaborate. I have in studio with me Franny Matthews. She is with the Colorado Technology Association. How are you, Franny?
I'm great.
Wonderful. And I also have with me John Tolva. He is with CityFi, and you guys are here to talk about the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. So we've got a symposium coming up on the 18th, yes?
Yeah. That's correct.
Wonderful. So I'm going to start here with a little bit of background for you guys, just to give our audience a know-how on you. So I'll start here with you, Franny.
Well, I started as the CEO of Colorado Technology Association in July. So this is...
well, happy
I'm still talking
starting.
Weeks. Thank you. I was on the board for a couple years prior to that, and I have spent my entire career in technology, really translating technology into business value. Mm-hmm. And so the last 18 years with IBM, and that's how I had engaged in Colorado Technology Association. We are going to be celebrating our 25th year next year.
Oh my gosh. Well, happy anniversary, first of all. 25 years is awesome. And so what made was it an easy decision to go from IBM to CTA? It seems like you were already on the board, and it seemed like an easy transition for you, but...
Well, it was kind of a left turn.
Yeah.
I have been involved, and certainly over the last 5 years or so, we have seen so much change happening in technology. And we're going from a linear world into kind of an exponential world of change, and lots of reasons why that's happened. And my interest in CTA has been to really help in creating a petri dish for that innovation and making it business friendly so all our boats rise. And certainly technology permeates every business now. And we are on the cusp of seeing some dramatic change, certainly in telecommunications, IoT, AI, blockchain. All these coming together are going to create some fantastic solutions.
Have you seen the world really ramp up between technology and business? Last 10 years, I would imagine, maybe, probably more.
John and I probably could talk about this, but what I see, you began to feel it, and I think the tipping point was the engagement in cloud.
Okay.
And so that became a big enabler for the distribution of technology, if you will, and the efficiencies. And so I would say cloud and also mobile. And if you really go back, depending on the age of the audience, you can map it straight back to Moore's Law. This is just the accumulation of 60 years of technology getting cheaper and smaller.
Yeah. Wow. I like that stance on it. That's not one I've heard before, so I appreciate that. And John, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, similar lineage, actually. I was with IBM for 13 years, but in a company of 450,000 people. Franny and I didn't know each other, unfortunately. But at least since 2008, my main domain focus has been the city. The city as a problem statement. It is a system of systems. If you want to tackle the hardest problems that exist, whether that's electrification of a fleet or social services, that's where you go. And it's just endlessly fascinating. After IBM, I was the first chief technology officer for the city of Chicago, so got to see the public sector. And my company, CityFi, it's four of us actually. We've all been on both sides of the equation, public and private, and that's really at the core of the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. This idea that there needs to be a reinvention of the public-private partnership. That's really the only way. To take Moore's Law for a moment. That's Gordon Moore. He was an Intel engineer. He stated back in the 60s, and it's still true today, that processor speeds double every 18 months. And that if you take that as a kind of proxy for productivity and for miniaturization and for the increasing ubiquity of computing in the environment, it looks like this. If you plot a government procurement cycle on that same graph, the two lines will never meet. In other words, by the time you get through the sort of bureaucracy and regulation that it takes to implement a cloud or an enterprise system, Moore's Law has taken technology past you. You're always playing catch up. So one of the tenets of the alliance is to try to close that gap by de-risking innovation, by taking co-development out of City Hall and out of the corporate boardroom, and creating sort of a third space where we can try things. And if it fails, then it doesn't shine poorly on either party. If it succeeds, both can take credit and roll it back into the operations. And we think that Colorado is a perfect place to do that because of its growth. You could pull this off into Chicago, you could pull this off into New York, but those cities' bones are pretty set, right? Here, we are a laboratory that's changing every day, and we have every possible kind of urban typology, from downtown Denver, to Aspen to Grand Junction. And so we see a real desire from the private sector to come test and experiment. So we're opening our arms with the Alliance.
I love that. And you are so right. It's kind of, you mentioned the Petri dish, and Colorado, Denver specifically, has to be a great Petri dish for this, right?
Yeah. For one reason, there's a lot of technology companies here to begin with, right? So you've got fertile ground, but you've got a civic and an urban infrastructure that's straining, right? That needs solutions. So this isn't like a nice to have economic development play, though it is economic development. We have to solve these problems. I mean, this is like an existential thing with congestion and with homelessness and with affordable housing. So it's real world problems that the market doesn't currently support. So one of the things we say is, if a city can write an RFP to solve their problem, they should do it, because the market has a solution. If there isn't an exact fit, then there are all these companies that think they have products, but they've never tested them in the real world. I mean, urban science and urban informatics and the Internet of Things are all super new, and many of these technologies are life or death. You're not going, you're controlling the way people move on a highway or something like that. So we are trying to create this economic draw, say, come to Colorado to test your products, but we're also trying to solve real city problems.
Do you offer that kind of workshop?
Well, the ultimate goal is pilot projects.
Okay.
So we dive deeply into our member cities. I think there's 19 now. We just added Greeley, to see where the sort of common challenges are. And we're particularly interested in cross-jurisdictional or multi-jurisdictional problems, because those fall through the cracks a lot. Who's the customer,
right,
is what the private sector would ask. And there's some of the most intractable, water and air quality do not obey municipal boundaries, homelessness, opioid use. And so then we take the problem statement, flesh it out in the way that an engineer thinks, and go to one of our 9 private sector partners and say, do you have anything, and if you do, let's put a pilot together. We've got a few running in the Denver South region right now, but it's a statewide alliance, so yeah, we hope to have many more.
Let's back up a minute and talk more about the alliance, right, and how it came about, and a little bit about the symposium. We'll get into some details about how things will grow from there, but let's do some more of the background.
Sure.
of the Smart City.
And I'm going to, John was there from the get-go, so I'm going to start with John, and I'll add some color commentary.
Well, the Colorado Technology Association was our first major partner. We've got nonprofits, academic, public, and private, and we knew that we needed an organization that understood the technology landscape, not just the enterprise customers or enterprise companies, but the startup ecosystem as well. The choice was obvious to go with CTA, and they have been from the very beginning. In part, the Alliance is a clearinghouse, is a connecting organization. The pilots are the things that people see, but really, we're trying to broker relationships. CTA has been doing this for 25 years, and so that we learn from them. We take their cues on how to navigate the landscape, and who the players are, and who the players should be. Okay. So that's why we're partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to some of the conversation about the problems that we're trying to solve, the other great thing about Colorado is our collaborative nature.
Oh, yes.
I've spent most of my career here, but 5 years outside of Colorado, and I don't recommend people leave Colorado because it's the best place in the world to live. However, that really gave me some perspective on it. You can make 2 calls and get an answer here. And there's a feeling of sharing. So if we can solve one problem for one municipality, we can solve it for many because there's so much commonality. We're excited about the alliance and moving forward and in really starbursting it. And one of our presenting partner for the Symposium is Aero Electronics, and they have been a cornerstone partner. We've been working with Aidan Mitchell, who's leading this, as well as Matthew Bailey, who has worked around the world in IoT solutioning.
Oh, wonderful. So you've got some really good experts coming in on top of the experts you already have, clearly.
Yeah, and just as a relative newcomer to Colorado, I'll absolutely echo that. I think the regional collaboration that exists here is a bit of an anomaly, and we want to capitalize on that. So, maybe we shouldn't have called ourselves the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance, but Smart Regions or Smart Metros doesn't really ring the same way. But that's really what it is. I mean, there are only a handful of problems that actually obey city lines. And in 2007 was the first time that more humans lived in cities than not. According to the UN, like in human history, but it wasn't really cities. It was metro regions, which you can consider the entire Front Range a big, long city. But shout out to Dr. Cog and the Metro Mayor's Caucus and the Colorado Mountain Towns Association. I mean, these things already exist and allow us to sort of layer on top and say, okay, let us be your advisor or assistant or accelerator when it comes to smart city solutions. The collaboration is remarkable here, and I don't know that natives would notice that. And
I have to tell you, I've been here for 8 years myself. I will never be a native. I'm not allowed to be. It's a law.
You cannot get a
I'm pretty
license
sure
plate.
it's a law at this point. But I've been here for 8 years, and I've been here at this job for 2, particularly, and there's not been a person that hasn't come through here that's talked about the collaboration, right? It's uncanny, and across the states, it's really unheard of. You don't see that very often, which to me it's a little disheartening for other cities, but it makes me love Denver that much more and Colorado that much more, right? Rising tides raise all boats, and we're so good at that and helping each other and getting ahead, and why not, right? We know that in the metro area, we have access to a lot more than people in the rural areas, but we're more than happy to collaborate with them to help them get what they need to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you mind talking a little bit about the actual symposium and why should we go? First of all, where can I go to sign up for this?
So the easiest way to register is going to coloradotechnology.org.
All right.
Long words, but easy to spell.
Exactly. coloradotechnology.org. And I'm sure if you Google Colorado Smart City Symposium, it'll pop right up for you as well. But yes, let's talk about it.
So it's on September 18th at McNichols Event Center right off Civic Center Park in downtown Denver. We'll be starting at 7:30 with breakfast, and the program actually starts at 8:30. We've put together a myriad of panels, fireside chats, presentations, and it's really focused on looking at the big picture, looking at innovation from technology partners, looking at insights from business leaders and government leaders on how we can all work together to really create better communities and better citizen experiences. And it's also about leadership. So it's not going to be a day of somebody standing behind a podium. It's going to be
as much as I love those.
I know. No.
So 2 of the people who will be behind a podium briefly at the symposium.
As long as it moves on.
I mean, there's 2 reasons, and maybe people fall into 2 camps. If you've never been to something like this, but you're, interested in any way in cities or technology, come to see how Colorado is different. I mean, that's, and you know, the DNA of the Alliance kind of weaves its way through the symposium. And we will be talking about the unique attributes that we have from organizations like CTA to the willingness of the municipalities to be living laboratories. That's different, you know, so that, and that, there's lots of technology conferences, but there aren't many that are technology about the making your backyard or your street better, you know, where you live, you know, rather than making, you know, your online banking easier or whatever.
Right.
If you are in this space and you've been inundated, I mean, there are thousands of smart city specific. The difference is that this is real. The Internet of Things gave new life to the smart cities movement. 10 years ago, it was about data, open data, which is great, and it changed the world in many ways, but it was sort of abstract, really abstract for a policymaker or a politician to understand. Making our streets safer, you know, the coming of rideshare and the angst that caused, and Airbnb, and now seeing the policymakers can see on the horizon autonomous vehicles and things like that. The conversation is now much more tangible, literally physical. I mean, urban lights, street lights, the most mundane civic infrastructure are now like the hottest commodity around. And so just to go back to why you should come, there are more real case studies. I mean, it's not a marketing campaign anymore. It's how are we gonna deal with growth? I mean, to frame it in a Denver frame, you know, you go to any Nextdoor forum, and you will see the tension that there is inside the populace of Denver coming to grips with it becoming a real city, and that's.
I'm in a real city. We've always been a real city, a large city.
Well, but it isn't going to get any larger this way.
Right, population-wise.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
That was maybe an inappropriate choice of words.
It made me angry.
No, well, that's good. That's good.
She doesn't look very angry.
I'm sneaky.
Coming to grips with the problems that characterize our older stock of cities, and you know, you can. I don't know that you can argue that growth will stop. It will ebb and flow as the economy ebbs and flows. So smart cities now is a way of answering that question. How do we deal with this? There's various ways, and technology can be used to limit growth. You know, though, you know, the vitality of the economy is something that very few will argue with. So I guess the consequences are much more real world than they were or are in other conferences that are largely trade shows or expos. You know what I mean?
Right. As opposed to showing you how you can make your city better. You have real life things that you've already got in place. It's just a matter of how to utilize them best.
Right.
Right. And that's the difference. And that's what's amazing. What has been, do you have people that are like surprised about certain things that you didn't think that they would be? As far as like the technology that we're trying to implement into areas?
My suspicion is coming to the symposium that we will have people that are having wow, I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah.
Because along with the panels and these interactive discussions that will be going on, we also will be showcasing technology in and of itself.
Fun.
And I should say technology solutions in and of them themselves. So it'll be an opportunity to walk around and talk to technology providers and find out what really is going on. There's some fascinating things going on in the telecommunications space that we, quite frankly, really most people don't know about. I highly encourage, city council people to come, business people to come, nonprofits to come. It's everybody. It's a very inclusive subject because what we're really talking about is making a better citizen experience.
Oh, absolutely. And as you mentioned, even if you've got just a little bit of curiosity yourself as an individual, technology, cities, it's a great way to get introduced to all of it and kind of, you can be like the one up on your friends. You know what I learned today? It's amazing
Right.
stuff.
I mean, there are some people that make the decision on whether to go to a conference by who's going to be there. It has nothing to do with the track. And, we've got Euless Cleckley from DPW, Alita Jeffress, the CIO of Aurora. I think Amy Ford, the Chief Mobility Officer from CDOT, will be there. I mean, there's just, the leaders of
Suma.
Smart City, Suma from OIT, I think will be there. The state CIO's office, basically.
Yeah.
So that's a great reason, for the spaces between the panels.
The networking, right?
Yeah.
Do you know the other cool thing about Colorado is my
There's so
advertising?
many.
I know.
You opened up a can.
We have a lot of, outside of the DC area, we have the most national laboratories and here in Colorado.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power in that, and we will have a track on that as well.
That is
That's a great
exciting.
point.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So can you tell us a little bit about what you hope that brings?
Well, I think what I'm fascinated about is that there's a tremendous amount of compute power there.
Yes.
And the ability, the problems that we're solving, I mean, it is pretty technology intensive. And I think highlighting that on top of the academic community that we have, it's really a pretty amazing, and I probably use the word amazing too much.
Not for Denver.
Okay.
It's enough. It's never enough.
But, we do have the right, constituents at the table.
Yeah.
And to miss the national labs and not speak of them would be.
Yeah,
Damaging,
the
yeah.
biggest computers in the world are in the national labs. But in addition to that, I mean, sustainability, which is the focus of NREL, essentially, and energy is inseparable from the concept of a smart city. But then you've got like NTIA and NIST up in Boulder, and along with that, really the epicenter of telecommunications is in the Front Range with Cable Labs here and Comcast and Charter. Not to mention the actual dish, the actual physical backbone of the internet being sort of throttled through the mountains via us. We're sitting on a giant pipeline, really. That's an asset. All that town, all those people that know connectivity. I mean, that was smart city infrastructure before there was smart cities, and now that's why a good percentage of the membership of the Alliance are the telcos, because they're like, wait a minute. We were putting digital technology in cities way before anybody was talking about the Internet of Things. Let's make some change. And you see them all sort of altering their business models that way.
Awesome. What do you hope to see from this end result? Are you hoping, obviously we want knowledge out there for everyone. We're hoping to see a little more alliance coming forward and moving together and getting some things actually accomplished. Besides those, was there any specific thing for you that you're really hoping comes out of this?
Well, and there's also the other thing that we didn't talk about. There will be some announcements at this.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Intrigue.
Wait, I didn't want that to be doomy. That sounded doomy. Unintentional. Ta-da! There you go.
So there will be some announcements, but what I would love to see come out of it is real action. Is that, we will inspire ideas, we will inspire this collaboration, and we'll inspire people to start to do some of these proof of concepts that will turn into full-blown execution.
Wonderful.
I mean, I'd like to see some partnerships come out of it. I was just at a small consultancy here in Denver this morning who's going to be in attendance. And, they're sort of around the edges of Smart City doing a little bit of work, but they want to partner up, not necessarily with a customer, but with other companies that are doing this. I mean, if there was a small business that came into this and said, wait a minute, I have the perfect product to solve this. Our cities are totally open to that. We actually don't have those Byzantine procurement processes as the bigger cities do. That's a real plus. If the CIO of Boulder wants to put autonomous snowplows on the road, she can do that pretty easily.
Nice.
So that's the kind of thing that I'd love to see come out of this.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Connect and Collaborate. Once again, if you want to sign up, it is coloradotechnology.org. You can also Google Colorado Smart City Symposium. It's, again, September 18th down by the Civic Center. At 7:30, they'll feed you, and at 8:30, the whole program starts. Thank you so much, you guys. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.